Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome back to the Onyx Tavern Vlog series on Shuriken Sentai Ninninger. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, and today we're going to be talking about Shinobi number 6, Tengu's Spiriting Away. Now, this is actually a rather good episode. I actually enjoyed it because there are several good moments within this episode. However, the overall plot and a lot of the messages I think that the episode is sending is a little mixed up. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about those and try to dissect them as best I can. But let's start with the plot of the episode and what all's going on here. The episode actually opens up with everybody taking a midterm exam on how to be a ninja. And I really like this because they brought up the idea that they were actually studying to be ninjas. And they're actually doing it. You know, they still have the classroom setting with all 5 of them together, which, again, you know, our Blue Ranger has his own chair that is separate from the others. So Yakumo, he's sitting in the back in a more American style or Western style, and the others are totally, ancient or traditional Japanese style. So, again, I'm glad that they are continuing that visual symbolism there. But the fact that they're taking midterms, I like that. We know that they take paper midterms, and then of course they actually go into the field and show, hey, I can do this, I can do that, so forth and so forth. And of course, as we continue with that, pretty much the way that everybody's graded is pretty consistent with what we've learned about them, and Takaharu being the worst student. Basically, they're saying his grade was so bad that they couldn't even calculate what his grade was, which tells me he probably has a negative grade or something like that. He probably lost points, because I do love his solution. The hologram that they were fighting, again, I love the fact they're still using this holodeck simulator, was moving around too fast, so his plan to stop him was to set everything on fire. That's a pretty good plan. But then we have our newest monster of the day, a clarinet-based villain shows up, and while he's taking Takaharu actually has to take a retest. So he's taking a retest, but the other 4 have to go out and fight the monster on their own. This is a misstep at the episode that I really kind of have a problem with. So they go in there, and during the fight, Nagi, Fuka, Katsumi, they're all kind of like saying, hey, we need Takaharu here, we need him, we need to be a complete team and all that, but Yakumo's basically like, we can do it by ourselves. Now, what ends up happening in the battle is that Gabi also appears, so they're fighting 2 monsters, the team fails, and Fuka is kidnapped. The problem I had with the episode at this point, and I'll talk about how it kind of changes, is at this point, the team is basically saying, we need Takaharu in here to help us. And if we don't have him, we're going to fail. And what happened? They failed. And that's kind of the problem that I have with it, is that at this point in the episode, they recognize that without Takaharu, they cannot win. Takaharu is not the 5th member where they need all 5 members to do the Lights of Orion or some combination to form the power cannon or whatever. The series at this point is established Takaharu as being the worst student, yes, but he is by far the most powerful, and the others seem to recognize that. And if we don't have our most powerful member, then we're going to go ahead and lose, which is what they did. So at this point, I'm really kind of upset at what they were doing, because they're basically saying without Takaharu, we're lost. But what actually ends up happening, we'll skip forward before we talk about some other parts, is at the end, in order to go ahead and save Takaharu, who has at this point rescued Fuka and has gone to fight Gabi all by himself, the other 4 Rangers defeats the clarinet monster all by themselves without the help of Takaharu. So that actually goes a little ways of showing that they don't need Takaharu, that they can go ahead and defeat the monster on their own. But as you recall, they were fighting the clarinet monster and Gabi at the same time. So basically what this is saying is that the only person who has any hope of really challenging Gabi here is Takaharu, who is able to stand toe-to-toe with them throughout the entire episode. And I know there's this whole rivalry between them and everything. We've seen this, in Shurikenger as well, where one villain picks on the Red Ranger and they have to be mortal enemies. But it just doesn't work with the narrative of the story, where the story is basically pointing out, without the Red Ranger, we are going to go ahead and lose. And while, yes, you need to have that teamwork, focusing on Takaharu as the most powerful of all these Rangers, and without him, we're going to go ahead and fail, I think is a disservice to the rest of the characters in the story. What should have happened is they should have been able to defeat, Gabe and the Clarinet Monster by using teamwork as opposed to having Takaharu there to help them out. I just don't like the way that happened. What's also a little bit of a disappointment is that Fuka gets kidnapped. Now, at this point, we haven't had a Fuka episode yet. So she gets kidnapped, and the only way she gets out is that Takaharu trades places with her so he can face Gabi one-on-one. She doesn't escape on her own. She doesn't even really attempt to escape on her own. She's really shown as being ineffective in this entire episode. Actually, I think Takaharu is the worst student, and I believe she is the second worst student in the class. I think she got like a 73 on her test, which is consistent with what we've seen. But at this point, because we have no real definition of her character, the fact that she's not that good at being a ninja, and the fact that she's the one getting picked on all the time here. I mean, she got punched in the freaking face by the hologram monster at the beginning of the episode. Again, they're just picking on her. I really feel bad for her character, because again, there's something about Fuka that I like. There's something about her that I am drawn to, and I don't mean just her appearance, but there is something about her that seems interesting, but we just don't have the chance to go ahead and explore it, and it really seemed like we were going to explore in this episode that she was going to find a clever way to get out, but no, she needed her brother to save her, and it goes into that whole trope, damsel in distress, guy's got to go ahead and save her, so again, that entire part of the episode I really have a problem with. It is somewhat saved by the fact that the four Rangers were able to take out the Clarinet Monster without Takaharu's help, but the fact remains they need Takaharu. And again, it is not that they need to be an entire team to defeat him, which is what the story is suggesting. That's what the story is outright saying, actually, and it even flashes back to one of the previous episodes to reiterate that point. But the way that it's structured is we need Takaharu, and without Takaharu, we are not going to go ahead and win this. That is the problem I have with this episode. But where the episode wins me over is we have a conversation between the father and the grandfather in this episode. And this is the stuff I was talking about in the first 5 reviews I've been doing about the series. And you guys can go back and listen to them. But what I have been saying this entire time is that the grandfather, by his inability to seal our bad guy in the beginning, back however long ago it was, has put on his grandchildren this threat. So after Fuka is captured and the others come back to report to their father, Uncle Sensei, whose name is escaping me at the moment, they go back and they go ahead and tell him what happened. They all rush out to go after Takaharu, who in a rage is off to go face Gabi and get her back, which is fine in and of itself. But once he's gone, the father talks to the grandfather. Now, the conversation basically goes like this. Now, I've actually written down some lines of dialogue. So, this is the father talking to the grandfather. Quote, "Why does it always have to be your way? You force this last ninja stuff on those kids. Your selfishness is at the fault for everything." Thank you. That is the point that I've been trying to go ahead and make. Because the grandfather was not able to seal away our bad guy, the problems have now befallen upon his grandchildren, and they are paying for his mistake. And the fact that Fuka was kidnapped goes all the way back to that fact. So much so that his son is now upset at him. His son is saying, "Father, you did not do this. You did not do what you're supposed to do, and now look, my daughter is kidnapped." What's even worse in this episode is we learned that the father was never taught Shinobi arts. He was never taught to be a ninja and can't be a ninja. Basically, that seems to be the implication, is he can't be a ninja. But he was never taught that. So when he finds out that his daughter is kidnapped, there's nothing he can go ahead and do. He can't go in there and fight. He can't do anything, and he blames his father for that. He blames the grandfather, So it's just like one on the other. It's like, it's your fault that this stuff happened. And by the way, I can't do anything because you didn't bother to teach me what to go ahead and do. You didn't give me the necessary skills, which is why he's about to run out there to basically get himself killed because he doesn't know what to go ahead and do in this situation. So I absolutely love this scene. It's very short, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes long, but it talks about what I feel is going to be the biggest plot within this series. And this episode seems to confirm my suspicions that the grandfather could not seal him away. All these problems are happening, and now somebody's getting mad at him. Because again, like I said in previous episodes, somebody said, you didn't do this, and look what has happened. Look at the consequences that have gone on. And the fact that it's coming from his son, I think that speaks volumes to what's going on. Let's also throw in another few wrinkles in with the grandfather, because it's fascinating what we're learning about him in this episode. First of all, the grandfather tries to go to, Takaharu and tell him make him remember the lesson about teamwork. But he also goes in to say, and I'm going to quote this, you don't know what it means to inherit something. What does that mean exactly? And what's even more interesting at this point, because again, this is just getting better and better, is that he revealed in the episode that it's not that he failed to seal away our villain. He chose not to seal him away. What does that mean? And we also have something about the shuriken of the end, or the final shuriken. It seems to be, I think, what's going to be the MacGuffin of the season, whatever that shuriken is, to seal him away, the 48th shuriken, maybe a 49th or something like that. So we learned that there's the shuriken out there that's the final seal, and we find the grandfather did not seal him on purpose. Now, why did he not seal him on? Why did he choose not to seal him? Is it because he's putting his grandchildren through this? Because now, if it's he intentionally did this, I don't know, that seems to make it worse, because it's one thing if you make a mistake and people have to pay for it, but if you intentionally create a problem and then make your grandchildren get into this, I mean, consider this. What if Fuka had been killed in this episode? Obviously, it's not going to happen because of the way the series is set up, but what if she had actually died as a result of this? What would the grandfather's response be? It's like, yeah, my bad. I chose not to do this, and it got my granddaughter killed. That's the way of the ninja. I don't know if that would be his response or anything, but think about that for a second. That's something, isn't it? I can't wait to see how this is going to be expanded upon throughout the rest of the series, because again, grandfather right now is my favorite character, not my favorite ranger character, but just my favorite character within the show. So I'd like to see where this takes us. What is grandfather? Is he ultimately a villain? Is he a good guy? Is his morals obscured? What is it exactly? And I think what this episode also has a theme of is being ineffective in the face of a crisis, because again, the father feels that he's ineffective, he can't do anything, and that's tearing him up inside, that he can't go save his daughter who's kidnapped. And then Fuka seems ineffective because she got captured, and she couldn't even morph before the guy went ahead and blasted her. So I think that's also a theme that's running through several of our characters, which is good. That's good drama there. I think the last thing to go ahead and cover is the big reveal at the end of the episode. So at the end of the episode, Ninja Red and Hurricane Red show up out of nowhere. Yes, the Red Ranger from the Kaku Ranger, or as most Americans know them as the Alien Rangers, and the Red Ranger of Hurricane or Ninja Storm shows up. And I actually decided, I don't make it a habit to go ahead and watch the next time on segment at the end of the episode. Again, I like being surprised. But I decided to go ahead and watch it, and it seems that they are going to play an integral part of the next episode. I will also point out that I was not surprised by their appearance in this episode, because thank you, Internet. Spoilers when I didn't ask for spoilers. And just as a small tangent right here, I try not to look up spoilers. I try to stay away from, but because I subscribe to things like Ranger Board, which is a discussion forum, and Orens and Hirotaku, which of course I work for, but because I subscribe to all these major pages, every single one of them had the pictures of these guys in there, so I knew it even before the Kamen Rider Drive crossover event, which, you know, guys, I don't know what to tell you about that, really. It's annoying that this was obviously supposed to be a surprise at the end of the episode, that they were supposed to show up and everybody was supposed to be shocked. Like, oh my god, I can't believe 2 other Sentai heroes that are based on ninjas have shown up in the series. But it got ruined just by the fact that people were posting it without even putting like spoilers on there. It's just like, next week, look at this, here's the picture. It's really annoying and all that. But to this point, and I am excited about this week's episode, or what I will be covering next week once I get the subs, it is the idea that we're going to have the 3 ninja teams together, or at least the Red Rangers. We are getting the original actors back and everything. And I love how this is going to... This is fuel for putting to bed that Sentai shows take place in separate continuities. Because up to this point, I've talked about this before in the past, everybody says each season takes place with its own universe, except Gokaiger, which takes place in a universe where everything's mixed up. Now we have this, where we have Hurricaneger, Kaku Ranger, Ninninger, all within the same universe, and since the former were both in Gokaiger, that means all the universes are linked up. I don't want to hear anything about, but they're separate because of this, because of that. The series is obviously making a point that they are connected, and if you want to be stubborn about it, at the very least, you can say Hurricaneger, Ninninger, Gokaiger, and Kaku Ranger all share the same universe. But again, in my opinion, all 39 of them share the same universe. But that's enough about that. So I think that's all I have to go ahead and say about this episode. Again, the overall plot had issues that I take with it, but the conversation again between the father and the grandfather, loved it. It was definitely the highlight, the best part of the episode. And the reveal at the end, leading into next week's episode, I'm really excited to see where they take it, because I'm sure it's going to be more than just eye candy and shock value. I'm sure they're coming in for a legitimate story reason, and I am very curious to know what that is. So, I want to thank you guys for listening. Tell me what you think about this episode in the comments. But until next time, the tavern is now closed.